Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberg. This podcast has been created with you in mind to acquaint you with some of the most incredible metaphysicians and spiritual leaders from around the globe who have helped others change their lives. In this interactive hour, you will be offered insights and techniques to help you make a difference in your life. Don't forget to subscribe to the show on your favorite listening platform. And here we go, on to the show. Hello. Welcome to Guided Spirit Conversations. I'm your host, Marla Goldberg. And today I'm so excited to bring onto the show as a guest, Rosalyn Fung. Rosalyn is a former psychologist turned Akashic visionary, life and business soul coach, facilitator, and trainer of Flourishing Your Life Coaching Certification Program. She's a speaker, a 3-time international best-selling author, mastermind and workshop facilitator on topics of leadership, self-love, mastering your energy, money mindset, and attraction marketing. Rosalyn has a podcast called Activate Your Soulgasmic Business, and she delivers meditations with light language transmissions. So Rosalyn has been featured in Huffington Post, Radio, and has spoken for Fearless Women's Summit, This Woman Means Business, and Blue Talks at Harvard University. As mentioned, Rosalyn is a former psychologist of over 10 years, a second degree black belt in karate. That's a tongue twister. A Reiki master and divine compassion multidimensional healer, and an Akashic Records guide. Rosalyn catalyzes you get out of your own way, unapologetically show up and magnetize your dream life and business. Welcome, Rosalyn.
Thank you so much, Marla.
I am so happy to finally get you on.
Thank you so much for having me here.
I'm so happy. I know we've been trying a bit, and so we finally have you, and I'm so excited. Thank you for being here. So, Rosalyn, I always like to start at the beginning. Former psychologist. What was the catalyst that brought you from psychology into your spiritual path?
Yeah, well, it really relates to my awakening. So back in 2008, you can picture this. I am standing on stage at a bodybuilding competition. And I have my quote unquote perfect body. And on the outside of my life, it looks just as perfect. Quote unquote. I had just started private practice as a psychologist. Like I said, you said, I'm a second degree black belt and a role model to kids, teens, and adults. And I was and still am happily married to my husband. At that time, it was 3 years. And my life, really, I hit all the check marks. I hit all the check marks of success. And yet inside, I noticed secretly I was feeling anxious. I was feeling empty. I was in this pattern of disordered eating. So I would restrict, binge eat, feel guilty, beat myself up. And my way of purging was by over exercising. And this went on for years. And I thought, hey, if I get the perfect body, then I'll be happy.
Right.
So on that day on stage, I came in last place. And of course, that led to me feeling very devastated. And that led me to have a breakdown. And we all know what breakdown really means, right? Yes. And so it led me to learn about this method called Haikomi. So I was a therapist then. And so it was like I was learning. And Haikomi means how do I stand in relationship with myself and how do I stand in relationship with others? It's a mindfulness somatic approach that brings in neuroscience, psychology, and at this point in time, I was like, this thing called spirituality, what the heck is that? So, of course, when you're learning something, you cannot not work on yourself. And so, Marla, what I noticed was I was unconsciously operating from this belief that I am valued in my doingness rather than my beingness. And my doingness was never enough. So I was like, no wonder I'm a perfectionist. I'm a hardcore type A, and I'm an overachiever. And it made me realize that this wasn't working any longer. So I learned how to slow down, the art of sacred rest, come home to myself, embrace imperfects. And that was the beginning of my self-love journey. And I realized that this was so important to embrace the value of my beingness. And this is what part of my purpose is. And so I got certified in Haikomi, which today, even as a business coach, I do that work. It's always a foundation of the psychology, the shifting of these subconscious beliefs, and and then I also got certified in eating psychology. So I became the go-to psychologist in my city at the time, and I was so inspired by the transformations that my clients were making. So I was out on a mission to help women and men who were falling through the cracks, just like me. We weren't meeting the criteria of an eating disorder, but we were in disordered eating. And
Oh, I
so,
love that.
yeah, I was like,
Powerful.
it's like, it's not black and white. And there's how many of us struggle or have struggled with hating our bodies, feeling not enough, not skinny enough, or not, for me, it was like not fit enough, not muscular enough, not lean enough. So then we go into these patterns of thinking that are toxic and in self-hate. And
Yes.
I really wanted to help former versions of myself, both in female and male form, to support them to come home to themselves too, through the doorway of food and body image, and just allows us to go deeper in. And so, Marla, I was so inspired by this that I became the first psychologist in my province to create and sell an online program. Now, we're in Canada, and it's very strict to be a psychologist. It's different than in the States, but it's very strict. Like, this is a huge no-no. So I figured it out because I'm like, nope, there's got to be a way, because there's psychologists in the States that can do this. I see it. So I figured out legally and ethically, and I showed up unapologetically and boldly and just really put it out there. And of course, what happens? Spirit opens more doors. And I got my first international speaking gig in a women's fitness community. And they put me on the magazine cover, where I did not diet for it. I just had a baby about a year ago. So for me, I hated my stomach all my life. And I had like now I would say beautiful stretch marks. I really love my body now. At the time, this would have been back in 2016. And so loved my body, really loved my insides and out. And I looked fit, but I also wasn't quote unquote what you would see on a fitness model cover. And so I wrote a 4-page article on how to flex your self-love muscle. And this magazine became viral. And there were lots of women reaching out to me, wanting to work with me. But because of my license, these women weren't in the same province. We were mostly in the States. I couldn't. And so it frustrated me. And it really, at that time, I started to dive in deeper in my own self-work. And what happened was I was in a personal development course, and it was a group coaching course. And I wanted to work on my money mindset. And we had to choose our accountability buddies blindfoldedly. Well, my accountability buddy was a 7-figure award-winning business coach. So I was like, well, shoot, you can't like make this up, right? And so thanks, Spirit. And at this point, I had done some work. I had opened up a little bit more of my psychic abilities. I had already become a Reiki master. Like, I was just hungry, and I always am. I love knowledge. I'm a student of life. Like I was just telling you before we started our show here, that I'm completing my shamanic 2nd-year practitioner course. And so what happened was I hired my very first business coach, my accountability buddy later, and she helped me start a self-love coaching business, which also is a no-no if you're licensed as a psychologist.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, yeah. And so I really had to separate it out. And what happened eventually was, over time, I realized I can fully show up as who I want to be and all of me. And the license was actually holding me back. And so I took that bold leap to, it wasn't easy. It was probably one of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my career. But to resign as a psychologist and go full on as I started out as a self-love coach. And then that really over the years, I've been in my business now for 5 years. So within a year or so, I shifted into helping women entrepreneurs because I speak a lot. And so they wanted to hire me to help them get out of their own way, boldly show up and unapologetically like really live their life and their business on their own terms. And so I was like, yeah, I can do that. So that's what shifted me into how I love to serve coaches, therapists, light workers, healers, people in the transformational world now to help them magnetize their soulmate clients and monetize on their calling.
So are you able to get, if you were going to keep up your licensure in Edmonton or in British Columbia, would you be able to also license in the States?
No, you have to write exams for each province. So I was registered in Alberta. So the license really was holding me back. I realized it was no longer aligned with my big vision dreams. And the thing that really held me back for a while, like I was scared shitless. And but I'm sure the audience can relate with this. You know, it's like the golden handcuffs, right? I loved being a therapist. I loved my clients, but it's dollars for hours business model. And
Yes.
then it's high, it can be high, you know, I was working like 7 clients a day. So because of Haikomi though, it wasn't burnout. And because of my clients and who I called in, it wasn't burnout, but it also didn't allow me to have that time freedom. And it also, more importantly, didn't allow me to make the impacts that I know I could, right? I feel like because of how big my purpose is, how big my passion is, that I'm meant to play bigger. I'm meant to be more global, more international. And so I knew that this license was going to hold me back. And things that were holding me back were like, well, you make really good money and you work so hard getting your education, and to become a registered psychologist is not easy. It is a grilling. After you get your master's, you're not a psychologist. You still have to go through a lot of hoops to become registered. And so, you know, it's like that thinking of like, well, what if I fail? You know, this is foolish to start again. You have a young family to support. Like, what if I fail financially? What are your Asian parents going to think? You know, you're demoting, quote unquote, this is totally ego, yourself from a psychologist to coach. What? You know, and so status, right? Because I was valued in my doingness. The status was what part of the doingness, the titles, and how much money I make and all that stuff. And so I really had to fight through all of this and just really get clear for myself. What is it that I want? What is my purpose, and how can I best be in service to this world in this lifetime, in the way that I'm meant to be, in the way that I was created to be. And I don't even want to cry because I can still feel that. Like, my purpose is so big. And just I could feel like how the license was holding me back so much. And the beautiful thing is when you take the leap of faith, just everything pours in. And I'm so happy to say that I'm absolutely living the life and the business of my dreams. Like, so much. There's so much abundance. There's so much freedom. There's liberation. And it's just so orgasmic for me to really watch my clients soar and take themselves to that next level. I'm really well known for helping people literally shift, get out of their own way, and boldly show up so that they can go and create from soul and monetize on their calling.
Which is pretty amazing. Now, you say you turned Akashic visionary life and business soul coach.
Yes. And so during COVID, so those who don't know, Akashic records are accessing the records of our soul.
Yes.
And so during COVID in 2020, I got certified in in becoming an Akashic reader, and this was amazing. It allowed me to increase my intuition even more. So even as a business coach, I always open up the records for my clients and allow whatever needs to come through. And different parts of me are able to come through in the reading. So sometimes if we're doing more business coaching heavy, then it's like, here's what your guides are sharing for the strategy. So my business coach brains and the guides of my clients are working together to really help them see what's in store for them, what aligns with them. And then it's just such a beautiful co-creation in the sessions.
So is it a part of reading the Akashic records and then, taking the information and sort of molding it to the business, or are there actual records for people's businesses?
Yeah, like your business is a separate entity. How I usually read people is because who I tend to work with are solopreneurs. And so I just access their own personal records, and then we can always access like what their business looks like as well and what's in store aligned with their soul purpose. And so when I'm reading, I actually close my eyes, like, because I see through my third eye, and I energetically feel what my clients feel. I see things in visions and images, in sometimes in Disney reference cartoons. It's so fun. I'm also very kinesthetic, so I move a lot, and I move like to the left for past lives. I move to the right for future, and the different gifts I have come in as well. So I often refer to myself in third person because I'm channeling. If they want Rosalyn, the somatic healer, to come in, or Rosalyn, the business coach, or Rosalyn, the marital and family therapist, which is what my master's is in, to come in, or Rosalyn, the life coach. And so all these beautiful aspects come in. And then if there's certain things, like if people often ask about their blocks, so they'll show me inner child in this lifetime and or past lives in similar karmic patterns. And the gift I have is I can clear karmic patterns in with light language, which is language that only our soul can understand. It comes from divine, and it's very potent. And then I can also amplify people's soul purpose with light language as well. So it's so rewarding to be able to work with my clients and spirit and all my gifts in our work together, and just see how this creates such beautiful, powerful ripple effects in the
This
world.
takes that statement about it takes a village to a whole new level.
Right?
Yes. You've got so many, this side of the veil, the other side of the veil, all working together on behalf of your client and you. I mean, it definitely puts that into perspective.
It does. And one thing that's really deeply at the roots of everything is I'm here because we all have gifts. I'm just here to help you remember who you are, who you really are, and help you tap into your own superpowers, and then be catalyzed and unlock that, unleash your superpowers into the world. So I'm just a facilitator. I'm just a conduit, and it's such a powerful gift and blessing to be gifted these in this lifetime. I'm so grateful. And it's like also helping my clients become more intuitive, trust themselves deeply. I mean, even as I speak to my clients, often it's like, this is really about trusting yourself. So I'm all about take what resonates, tweak what doesn't with whatever I provide, and make it your own. That's really important, because if something doesn't resonate with you, it's not going to work.
Right.
It's not going to work.
I love that you say that, because it's so important that for whomever is working with whomever, whatever healer, whatever metaphysician, that things resonate with them, because like you said, if it doesn't, it's frequency. So if you're not resonating, your frequency isn't blossoming. It's sort of shriveling or huddling into a hiding type of a posture.
Yeah, I love what you're sharing, Marla, because it's either expansion state or contraction. And so, actually, a really good example is yesterday I was working with one of my clients, and she's a coach. And so she was like, she actually is in the process of getting certified. So she was having a course on around money and your relationship with money, which is one of my favorite topics. So I'm like, yes. And so she had a list of 40 money questions that she had to answer. And she's like, oh my God, like I just want to contract. I just want to hide. And I said, hey, let's play. That's one of my favorite words. Like, let's play. This is the energy of play. Let's notice. So bring in the somatic work. Let's notice how your body actually wants to hide. And so we study, we drop the story, we study some, like what's happening, what sensations, what emotions are rising. We actually move into it. And what happens is they get to study. So this is Haikomi. They get to study what arises within and how old does it feel. Usually it's in our like a young age, and what memory gets associated. And so as we're processing, and I'm moving there into a expansive state. Once we really honor the young child, I do some cellular healing work there, and then we move into a more expansive state. So within 45 minutes, she was in her power. I read the trigger, what previously would have been triggering to her in terms of, I asked her what's the question that charges her the most, that would make her contract. I read it to her back when she was in her empowered state. And she's like, I'm ready to dive in. I'm excited. I was like, that's it. That's how we shall operate as leaders. And it's so rewarding to see somebody literally within, it can happen within 15 minutes, you know, like depending on the process, how quickly we can shift into a different, more empowered, sovereign state.
Which is so important because as you know, Albert Einstein said, you know, you can't change a problem using the consciousness that you use to create the problem. If you use the same consciousness, you're just going to have the same problems over and over again. You have to shift to be able to change what it is that you need to bring into your experience on this world. Pardon me?
New reality, new energetic.
Yes, absolutely. So go ahead.
I was going to say, and you know, it's really important because we can't see our own shit. Like we can't see the forest from the trees. So I make it no secret. I have coaches. I will always invest. Like I'm obsessed with investing back into myself and my business.
Oh, yes.
And so for me, it's like really important that, because we all have blind spots. So having a mentor, a coach who's trained to be able to work with whatever are helping us move into the goals that we want to move into, is really helpful, because we can't see beyond what we don't know. Sometimes it's a knowledge gap. Sometimes it's trauma, and we can't work through something through the eyes of trauma. We need to be able to really honor what happened to us, or for us, I will say, and then move into a new state so that we can have new eyes, empowered eyes, into moving into where we want to be in our next version of ourselves.
Absolutely. You've got some courses coming up. Is that correct? You have a free masterclass called Bust Your Procrastination, Boldly Show Up and Sign Your Soulmate Clients.
Yes. Yeah. That one actually, yes, that one's actually on demand. So people can sign up for that one. I can always send the link to you, Marla. I can remember that's in the show notes, right? Yes. And then I will have an upcoming masterclass, another one in August, that's related to really becoming more elevated so that you can boldly, unapologetically market yourself.
And I love the unapologetically, because so many people go, God, I'm really sorry, but, and it's sort of like every time they say they're sorry for something, to me, it holds you back. It's like you get corded and you want to cut those cords. And how wonderful that you have some way to teach others to cut their cords and to live their experience, as you say, unapologetically, which I love.
Thank you. And it's all about taking courageous action. Lots of people get confidence and self-worth mixed up. They think that it's the same thing, but it's not. So
It's not.
if you look at my story in 2008 when I was struggling with body image, but on the outside, I was really confident. Everybody saw me as confident. I was really confident is about your skills, and it's about your belief in yourself to do something well. I was epic as a therapist. I was epic, as a karate instructor and a role model there. And and so when you look at that part of my life, though, my self-worth was very low. I didn't have a lot of value in myself, in my beingness. And today I have a lot of self-worth, and my confidence depends on the activity. So am I confident to speak in front of thousands of people? Yes. Am I confident to teach about magnetizing your soulmate clients? Yes. Am I confident to cut my kids' hair? Heck no. Am I confident to learn? Yes.
And that's what it is. And if you stay open to learning new things, you build competence
Yeah.
in many different areas, which can only strengthen, even if they're incongruent with what your profession might be, it still will strengthen and give you more tools in your toolbox to deal with life as life comes to you.
Yes, absolutely. Oftentimes, how you do one part of your life is how you do all parts of your life. And so, if you were to work on your confidence in a specific area, then it allows you to go, wow, like I can move past my fear in this area. I wonder if I was to work in a different area of my life, if I can apply the same kind of confidence. And honestly, confidence just comes from taking courageous action. It has to be action. We will never feel ready. We just have to take the leap of faith. We have to just go do it, allow ourselves to fail forward. And there's really no such thing as failing anyway, unless you don't learn from your mistakes.
Exactly.
So it's all about having hindsight. So instead of mindsight, looking at things as 2020, hindsight is looking at things and taking the lessons from what happened and applying them as you move forward so that you don't make the same mistakes.
Exactly, because where you are is where you are for a reason. What you're experiencing for a reason. So you need to really find out. And I like to look at everything as a lesson, opportunity, gift, or combination of. So if you look at everything that way that's going on, like where's my lesson? Where's the opportunity? Where's the gift? And then you'll be able to really sit in it and find it. It will open up to you, almost like a lotus.
Yes. Actually, I have a lotus tattoo as you say that.
Oh, I love that. That's beautiful. I love the colors.
Thank you, love.
Let's talk about light language. I think light language is fascinating. How did you come about knowing you have the ability to speak the language? And do you know whose light language you're speaking?
Yeah. Okay, beautiful. Well, I feel like it's another episode, so let me try to condense it.
Okay.
I speak a lot about it on my own TV show, podcast, Activate Your Soulgasmic Business. So I'll try to condense it because I share my story on my podcast. So sorry, let me just close the door here. I'm staying at my parents' house, just for the audience to know, and they still have those like dial-up home phones. What are those? Anyways, coming back to here, so light language, once again, is language that only your soul can understand. And Marla, I'm so happy to share the light language. Maybe we can do that at some point in our show here. But what it does is, it, depending on who's receiving it, it can clear anything that doesn't serve or support. It can heal. It also activates and amplifies things for the highest good and truth, depending on where you're at in your process. And so for me, light language was something that I was exposed to probably about 5 years ago, maybe 6, where I had a colleague who spoke it. And when you hear it, oftentimes it feels like home. It feels like you're remembering your soul.
It's familiar.
It's very familiar. And so I remember deep down, I was like, that is so beautiful. I feel like one day I may be able to do that. Fast forward, 2019. I was actually I just actually had another spiritual awakening. And I awakened to my relationship with God. I've always believed in God at this point, but I was always afraid to come across as imposing religion on other people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not religious myself. I did grow up in Catholic churches, schools. My parents are atheists, so we didn't practice. So I always believed in God, but I've always also was surrounded by, but I knew some people who were semi-imposing religion. So I never wanted to come across as that. And so I had this inner poke of like fear. If I say God, people are going to think I'm imposing that on religion on them. And so I would always say, / universe / great spirit, whatever. Right.
Yes.
And then I had an awakening to God because there were all these beautiful signs that God was around, and I couldn't deny it anymore. And so a friend of mine actually supported me in this. And we went to, of course, when you enter a new relationship with God, you're like, okay, I want to learn more. So she took me to a Christian conference. And it was a conference that definitely was an interesting, I've never experienced anything like this before. So I was just really observing. It was a very intense energy. Almost like I recognize for myself personally, it felt uncomfortable. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just that's my experience of it.
Right.
So there's no judgment, but there was my experience of it. And so at this point, we were able to go up after the preaching and be prayed with. And so I remember one of the pastors came up to me and said, "Are you ready to enter your relationship with God and reclaim it?" And I'm like, yes. So that they had me repeat after them. And they repeated like they just had a few statements. And then one of the statements was, "I received the gift of tongues." And so, it was a woman pastor, and she had her palm on my forehead. And so she started speaking tongues. And I'm just listening. I'm like, okay, that's really cool. I've never heard anyone speak tongues before. And then she stopped and she's like, "Hey, repeat." And I'm like, "What? Okay." So I tried to copy her, and my mouth started doing something on its own. And she goes, "That's yours. That's your gift." And so I was like, wow. And so I remember driving home, and I can automatically turn it on. Like it's here. I can just channel it really easily. And so I just played with it. I'm like playing with it. I'm like, this is really interesting. And I could just feel so much love energy moving through me. So fast forward, I was working with a new client in early 2020, who actually helps people with light language. And so when we were figuring out her niche, I was like, that's me. So, and then I had some beautiful galactic experiences. So one night I was sleeping and I was woken by a movement, and I was like, what was that? And I sat up, and my husband was actually sleeping in the basement. Not because we were fighting or anything, but because he just doesn't feel super comfortable with a bed. So he just moved down. So I'm like, thought it was my husband. And I'm like, Dan? I'm like, okay, what the heck? I really feel a strong presence. And then next thing I know, I see this pink octopus, like almost like a holographic, just floating in front of me. And this calming effects over me, like my high self was present and online. And it's like, oh, that's an alien. And then my ego kicks in and is like, holy shit, that's an alien. And I'm like, put the bed over me. And I'm like, okay, go away. Like, what's happening? Anyways, I talked to my clients and I was like, okay, this is what happened. And she's super galactic. So she's just like, oh my God, that's such a delight. And I was like, all right, I can't wait. I need to hire you right now. So she helped me develop what I would more comfortably relate to is light language than tongues, because tongues is more associated with religion, where for me, I'm very spiritual, and I know I've learned that my light language, even though I got activated with it in Christian conference, is more galactic. I'm very connected with the Palladians.
Okay.
Um, and so it's been beautiful to be able to incorporate light language in my work with my clients. I just see the impact it has in terms of helping them just clear whatever they need to clear and heal, and then activate their next level version of themselves. And I, I even on my podcast, at the end of the last 5-10 minutes, I always do a light language meditation. So um, it's just so beautiful to have people even reach out and say, wow, on Instagram, I'm Bold Sexy Warrior. I also do light language reels. And I get, those are the ones that are the most popular for me, are the light language reels. People are just always following me, DMing me and saying like, thank you. Like that feels like home. And it's so cool to see how this multi-dimensional energy allows people to feel connected with me.
I'm sitting here listening going, that is such a cool story. That is so cool.
And I'm like, it is a cool story. And I'm sure to some people who are listening, they're probably like, that is crazy. It is crazy. If you think about it, it's a little crazy, but that's what life should be about, right?
Well, the first time I saw light language, I went to a light language event, and as the woman's talking, I was just like, the words were coming out of my mouth. I mean, I haven't done it since, and she's like, oh my God, you're from, and I was like, yeah,
Yes.
okay. I was like, because it was just, in some respects, it sort of sounds a little gibberishy.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
But
And when you first start, it feels really gibberishy, and then it gets like you literally can hear and feel the shift as it gets richer and richer and deeper with more practice.
which is just so incredibly cool. And how great that you use it with your clients to help them with their processes, whether to release or to expand, whatever it might be. It's a
Yes.
beautiful, beautiful way of doing it.
Thank you, love.
How do you have your clients start to get out of their own way so that they can confidently show up for themselves?
Beautiful. So this is usually where I bring in my psychological background, and usually it's based on fear, right? Usually it's based on something that isn't, I'll say real, because it's false evidence appearing real. And so really we look at what it is that they're fearing. And like I mentioned before, and how I worked with the client yesterday somatically, I do a lot of somatic shifting. Now, for the audience, as you're listening, what are some practical, as woo as I am, I'm also very practical. So let me just feel into, so I'm just going to do a very generic, but also very root, um, um, I'll say foundation, which is self-worth, right? A lot of people are scared to put themselves out there because at the core of us, we want to feel loved, safe, and belong. And so if I'm to put myself out there, all of a sudden I could be risking judgment and risking rejection from other people. That's the biggest reason why we don't put ourselves out there. And so this is about owning your worth, owning your power and your sovereignty. And so practical action step, then it's about recognizing where the fear comes from. So what is it that you're fearing? And what's all the, there's obvious, where our attention goes, our energy flows. So then we look for evidence to support the fear. So what I have my clients do then is, and this is something that the audience can take away from, is write down the affirmation. So in this case, maybe it's, I am worthy to whatever it is, speak on stage, work with clients, charge X amount of dollars. And so now when we say that, there's going to be the ego that comes up to go, yeah, right. And then start to make all that noise. So while you're getting to be embodying this new belief, we often, you can insert, I am in the process of knowing I am worthy to whatever it is, or just I am worthy. Keep it simple. And so eventually you got to practice. You wake up and you say this. You put it on sticky notes of this affirmation on your bathroom mirror, on your
Yep.
fridge, in your car, on your cell phone. and so it's literally at the forefront. So at some point, you won't need to say, I'm in the process of knowing. You just feel it. I am worthy. I am powerful. I am, epic, whatever it is that you are trying to embody. And
I am
know,
enough. I deserve. There's so many of those. Yes.
right? And so, and it's also breathing it in, because it's not just head. We run on 3 different engines. So head, heart, gut. So when we breathe it in, it's allowing us to embody the truth of this statement.
Yes.
And because it's truth. You were born this way. You're born worthy. You're born enough. But what happens along the way is other people, not on purpose, but usually our parents, influential people, those adults or peers, project onto us, and it creates shame,
Yes.
it creates guilt, and it creates not enoughness within us, because that's a meaning we
Yes.
need. And so we're undoing all of that, and we're reclaiming our birthright to be worthy.
I love that. I do. We're going to take a brief pause because it's charity shout out time.
Woohoo!
And I love charity shout out time because this is a way to spotlight a charity that my guest today, it's you, Rosalyn Fung, it's your charity, which is the Alzheimer's Society. So
Yes.
let's talk about it.
Thank you. I just want to acknowledge you, Marla. I love this. I've been on podcasts and other, shows, and this is the first time I've ever seen a shout out on charity. I love this so much. So thank you for doing this.
Thank
Um,
you.
so yes, Alzheimer's Society means a lot to my husband and I, because his dad really suffered from years of dementia, which really is Alzheimer's. And, we wanted to really give back to the research. My husband is also a financial planner with IG Wealth, and it's beautiful that every year they do a walk for Alzheimer's support. And so it's
Nice.
something that's near and dear to our hearts, because seeing your loved one, like I met Dan, now it's been 20 years. So 20 years ago, and his dad, like his parents are no longer alive, unfortunately, but his dad had just started declining when I met him. And interesting enough, side note, my husband's mom was a nun, his dad was a priest when they met.
Wow.
I can listen to that on my episodes of Activate Your Soulgasmic Business. But yes, and so I never got to know his dad the way that people spoke about him. And in fact, they actually left the church and became psychologists themselves. So a lot of my psychologist peers in the generation above me were supervised by them. Crazy small world. And this is before I met my husband. And so, I knew he was a brilliant man. He's written spiritual books, and unfortunately never got to really know him that way, because the dementia got in the way. So
it started young for him, his father?
no, his dad was 47 when my husband was born. So
Okay.
he was
So
a bit older. Yeah. So his dad unfortunately passed away about, before we had kids. So 12 years ago. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh.
So I just watched the suffering, and it's hard on the family members, those who have family members that suffer from Alzheimer's. You know how hard that is.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
And I have a dear friend whose aunt got Alzheimer's. And I listen to the stories, and it's, if we can find out ways to lessen
Prevent.
lessen the events, make it not so severe, like what Michael J. Fox is doing for Parkinson's, to try and make more
Mm.
inroads to finding it early or giving medication to keep it from progressing, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera. And
Yeah.
this is what these organizations do in the Alzheimer's Society, because what Alzheimer's does to a family is really break them apart,
Yeah.
because they're watching the decline of a loved one, and nobody wants to see that, and they
Hmm.
revert back to practically being an infant because they forget.
Well, yeah, and I watched Dan's mom, become wife to full on caregiver, and I
Right.
just often thought, like, what must that be like? Like, I even want to cry. Just like, see, like they had a beautiful relationship. Um, Definitely a power couple. She also became a psychologist, so and they complemented each other, and I just thought, putting myself in her shoes and thinking, like, you don't have your husband anymore. He's just not the same way.
No, he's a shell of what he was,
Yeah.
but you step up because of the love you have for that individual. It
Yes.
just is not it's not an easy something, but
No.
it's funny, my husband and I both have a belief about the right to life.
Mm.
So if we
Yes.
knew that we had some catastrophic something, we
Yes.
would not necessarily want to burden the other with the
Yes.
caretaking. And someone shared with me, and it's something to think about, but it's like, why would you want to take away the lessons that that person wants to learn, that they need to learn, or something that they need to, the karma that they might need to clear up with this person by doing it. But I think either way you choose,
You do.
there's beauty in either way, because if you do the right to life, you take away the suffering that the person has to watch you disintegrate, or the
Yeah.
suffering that you have to do.
Hmm.
And I do believe that in any action you take, whatever's in your heart, the right way of handling it, is the way you need to go. It's not
Yeah.
for me to project on anybody
No,
what's right or what's wrong. Everybody has their own rite of passage, but it's very challenging. So I
thank
think
you
the
for sharing that.
Alzheimer's. I'm sorry.
Thank you for sharing that.
Oh, my pleasure. But that's why I go back to the Alzheimer's Society, because, like Parkinson's, like some of these other diseases, it's really a gift to be able to give, to let them find a way to maybe not make it as difficult for the family members who have to witness, or the people
Yes.
who have the Alzheimer's that are bringing the family members along with them.
Yes,
Because
absolutely. And it's
you want to
interesting you
remember them
mentioned
and fear
Parkinson's.
blossom. I'm sorry.
It's interesting you mentioned Parkinson's because that's what Dan's mom passed away with as well. So,
Wow.
yeah, you're psychic, Marla.
Gee, am I?
You're very present here right now.
But anyway, so I want to just read, and it's going to be in the blog,
Thank you.
alzheimer.ca/bc/en.
Thank you.
So please see how you can help with the Alzheimer's Society in Canada, which is where this organization, this part of it is, or wherever you live in, because Alzheimer is not um, subject to just a few. It's an equal opportunity illness, as is Parkinson's or any of these other diseases. So help your local chapter, or help the chapter that Rosalyn supports. So thank you for
Thank you
that.
so much.
Okay, we're getting close to the end of the show. Rosalyn, what have I not addressed that you would like to share with the audience?
I would love to have the audience experience a light language meditation
Okay,
as a closing. I just feel called to, I mean, something I regularly do in my show. And so if that's okay with you, Marla, I'd love to do
absolutely.
that.
This
Beautiful.
is for you.
Okay, so how much time do I have then?
Let's say 5 to 6
Perfect.
minutes.
Okay,
Okay.
beautiful. So, my loves, I'm just going to invite you to find a space where you can get comfortable. You can lie down or sit up to you, whatever is most comfortable for you. And if you're driving, of course, just come back on the replay.
Or pull over.
Yes. And so I'm going to invite you to just take a breath in and then just open mouth, release that breath. I'm just releasing anything that doesn't serve or support. Just feeling that energy just dropping more and more of who you think you are. Dropping any responsibility right now, the have tos, the shoulds. Now imagine you're a tree, your feet are the roots, and Mother Earth, her warm, loving, unconditional energy is coming into the soles of your feet and moving up into your ankles, your calves and your shins, your knees in the front and back, your thighs and hamstrings, hips, and moving right into your root chakra, right through the perineum into the base of your spine. And just breathing and then moving this breath into your sacral, your belly, your womb space, and into your solar plex, your heart, really making sure your breath is expanding your rib cage and the heart in the front and back, your throat, your third eye, crown, and letting that breath just zip up to the cosmos. And suspending your breath here for a moment, conjuring in your power, setting intention for yourself in this moment, for something to clear or heal or activate. And then on the exhale, imagine moving your breath all the way down each of your energy centers again, and all the way down to Mother Earth, to that rich soil, planting your intentions here for the highest truth and good. So just breathing in again, and then drop in some light codes to activate these intentions. Kia sinira kora kia si morokora tinara kora kia si the marakia samorokora tinira kia morokora sinira kia morokora sinira kia morokora. Really feel into your breath, feel into the sensations. Morakia sirokora tinara kora kia sirokora tinara kia samorokora tinara kia morokora tia. Breathing in. Balancing each of your energy centers. Morakia, sorokurati, nerakurakia, samorokuratia, activating, amplifying your intention for the highest truth and good. Morakia, sorokurati, morokurati, narakia. Breathing in again. And then once again grounding as you exhale, your breath like roots, planting these beautiful intentions even deeper into the soil. Feeling the energy. And so it is. Marakia sorokura tinirakia maratokia narku. Just regulating your breath. And feel into the sensations. There's no right or wrong. So you may feel tingling, light energy flowing. You may notice some tears or emotions arising, a sense of familiar or home. Your eyes might be fluttering. This is all okay. There's no right or wrong in how you are receiving this. You're receiving it exactly in the way you're meant to. You might be vibrating, moving. Just one more breath in. And then bringing your intention into your heart as you breathe into your heart on the exhale. Beautiful. So just notice how you can keep a piece of this experience with you, whether it's an image or word to remind you of your intention. See the image or the word. And then when you're ready, just find a way to sacredly complete your experience inside. Maybe it's with a breath or a nod, placing your hand on your heart, one on the womb space. And then when you're ready, just very slowly and gently start to bring your attention back out into your space. Feel the temperature on your face. Wiggle your toes, your fingers. Slowly open your eyes. Be careful, it might be a bit bright, so you might want to blink a few times. Thank you, Marla.
Thank you. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. So powerful.
Thank you.
Rosalyn Fung, thank you so much. Look for her at Bold Sexy Warrior. Rosalyn is also able to be found at her Facebook group, Raise the Vibration Lightworkers, Healers, Coaches, and Spiritualpreneurs.
Yes.
YouTube is Rosalyn Fung. Activate Your Soulgasmic Business as her podcast. And look for her at Instagram, Twitter, and all the usual social media platforms. Thank you so much, Rosalyn.
Thank you, love.
So
Thank
grateful
you so much for having me. And I'm looking forward to, I usually play more on Facebook and Instagram. So you guys can find me there, or my website, and everything's there, rosalynfung.com.
Perfect. And we're going to find that in the blog that is attached to this show. Also, I want to thank Bridget for all you do. Your right hand, you're my right, my left hand. Thank you so much. I want to thank you, the listening audience, for taking time out of your life, out of your day, to be a part of this show. So grateful for all that you send to me vibrationally and email wise. So I'm so grateful for you. I want to check out my website at Marla Goldberg. Goldberg has 2Rs.com. See how I can work with you. And as I leave you, as I always do, sending you love, blessings, and gratitude. Know how grateful I am that you're in my life in whatever capacity you're in it, because not only am I your teacher, I am your student. And not only are you my student, you are my teacher. So thank you for being you. And if you haven't heard these words today, as always, I'm going to leave you by saying, I love you. You are loved. You are never alone. Know that even though you might be the only one in the room physically, you have a plethora of beings on the other side of the veil just waiting to conspire on your behalf, but you have to ask for what you want. So sing it, scream it, say it, think it, whatever it is, send it out there so they could start working on your behalf. And until next time, stay well. Take care now.